Welcome back, guys. This is Metal Eagle. I'm joined with my dad to give him a 1 hour chess lesson, fast, overall question and answer session to get him familiar with chess. So, how much chess do you know?
I've never played in any tournaments, and I played when I was younger, but I don't really know. There's some rules I don't know. For example, I was never familiar with the rules for how to orient the board. So, could you familiarize me with that?
Yeah, definitely. So, if you see the board right here, there's annotations for the ranks. Basically, there's a number system of the 1 to 8, and also the file system with the A to H. So, these are files: A file, B file, C file, etc. And also, this is a 8th rank, the 7th rank, and the 6th rank is basically oriented to the sides. So, for example, if you go the coordination of the moves, so pawn e4 is basically the E file in the 4th rank. So people write down the score sheet pawn e4, just e4, for example.
Okay, now is there, as far as orienting the board to start with, is there, I guess, the white square on the right or something like that?
Yeah, definitely. So the white square on h1 is basically the white on the right is h1. So if you don't have that, your board is set incorrectly. So basically it'll be this square in h8, it'll be this h1 square, which is not the correct way to do it. Okay. And also, you want to make sure the queen is on the same color as the square. So the white queen is on the square, and the other square queen it'll be on the black queen pretty much. So the queen and the color is matching, and the white and the right for the same bottom right corner.
Okay, so then so that orients the board, and so blacks always starts on the 8th rank. Then is what you're saying?
Yep, the 8th and 7th rank. Yep.
8th and 7th rank. Okay. All right. Now. So how would you, if the move you just made, how would you indicate that? Like when you're writing it down, you just say.
Yeah, I'll just say e4. So in the olden days, it'll be saying king pawn to. It's basically pawn to king 4. So the king basically is the file. So not the e file. Back in the days, like the king file, like the pawn to king 4. So it's not the e file, but the king file. At the start of the game. So pawn to king 4.
Now, are there ever cases where when you make a move like that, it could be two different pieces could make the go to e4, and then how would you know which one they're talking about? How would you designate that?
Exactly. So if I go back and you just, let's say knight to c3, then you just go to pawn d5. Let's say if you just write e4, then if you see e4, it's like, oh, the pawn e4. Basically, you don't have to do a prefix to the e4 move. So if you have a knight move, you have to say ne4, like a knight move. So the K is reserved for the king.
Oh, I see.
So the pawns are just neutral. They don't have to have anything before that. But the queens are Q, the bishops are B, the rooks are basically the R.
Okay, and for if there's no designation, then it's a pawn, right?
Yes, basically, yes.
Of course, you could have two pawns who are shooting for the same position, or I guess you can't really, or can you?
Yeah, definitely, it's a really good question. So if I go, for example, this way, we go e6, there, c6, knight there, d5. If I go there, they have to specify black. So pawn, they have to say c x d5 to say that c pawn takes d5. And also, besides, if you don't have any concession pawns to c4, you have to do e takes d5, ax d5. Doesn't matter which one. You want to say the file and the pawn's destination square.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks for that. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Now, what would be a common opening move for, say, white? What are the like a common, like 2 or 3 common moves, first moves, or are there a bunch that could be you could normally start with?
Yes, for sure. So my students, both my one of my working students that I usually do weekly lessons with, Trip, and my other student, Bob, they both like to play what's called the London system. So they go d4, then go black can go d5, and now we specify this move, bishop f4, which is the London system. This move characterizes the opening. So the idea is to make sure that you go e3 without blocking your bishop in.
Okay.
So if you do the inverse, so like let's say e3, there's no way to go to f4, like transport over the pawn.
Okay.
So they go there first and then e3.
I see. Okay. And so one of the goals early on is what, to try to get the center?
Yep. So basically at the beginning of the game, you want to control the center four squares. e4, d4, e5, d5. For example, if you go e4, they go g6. It's ideal to control the four sides of squares by either going to d4 with a pawn, or maybe you can do after this one, you can go knight f3, the same sort of for square control.
Oh, okay.
So the knights are going to be just controlling the dark squares, and the pawns will be handling the light squares.
Okay, great. So as you proceed with the game, I guess castling is often done as, I'm not sure the rules of castling as far as when you can castle and when you can't, and there's something about check you have to be careful about. Could you explain that? It's not clear to me.
Yes, definitely. So I figure I'll just make an opening moves. Don't worry about exactly the move order, but I'll just make moves for the sake of example. I'll just do this one. I'll take this one. There's there, and let's say knight f3 there. Bishop to g4. Take there. Don't worry about that. Bishop b3. So the question is, if they go there, can you castle the king to this side? So the castle is basically you move the king over 2 squares, and you move the king first to the square destination, and you move the rook there. But if you move the rook first, you can't king to there. It's not allowed.
Okay.
So you have to move the king first to g1, and then you can move the rook to f1.
Okay, yeah, I think you can castle now, right?
Definitely, because nothing restricting you. But let's say if they go queen e7, can you castle still?
Well, I think because you're in check, I would think not. But,
Yeah, so there's a rule that you can't castle all check. So if you're in check, you want to address that check first. There's another rule that if they go bishop a6, can you castle now?
I guess what's the rule?
You can't castle through check. So if the king was to travel this way, you're going to be in check on f1. But if you go g1, there's the same difference. There's a wall there. Okay. So you can't castle through check, and you can't castle out of check.
And you can't castle into check.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So all the parameters are not allowed to castle.
Okay. The other thing I'm not clear about is pawn movements initially.
Yep.
Like you can move 2 spaces initially or 1, and then.
Yep. For example, if you go pawn e4, then you can do 2 squares. But if you go there, you can't move 2 again. You only do that for the e pawn, 1 move forever. So e5 there, you can't go 2 squares again. You have to go 1 again. So you can do only 2 scores the first time for the pawn.
So you can go 1 or 2 squares the first time, right?
Yeah, the first time for each pawn.
Okay, and what about pawn en passant or en passant, whatever it is?
En passant, yeah. So basically the rule is, if you, for example, I'll just show you example. If I go, the advanced version of French is going to be like this: d4, there, e5. If they go the usual move c5, can you do en passant here? So usually the en passant move is if they go there f5. You can't take the f pawn because the f pawn move first is the first move the f pawn ever made.
Yeah.
But because of that, they're vulnerable to be taken because it's this one or this one is never different. You can take there anyways. This is called en passant, in passing.
Okay, so like, I see. Okay, so but it's only right after they make that double
Yes, double move, square move.
I
Yep.
see,
So initial square. So for example, if you go there, you can't take en passant because this pawn has been there before. It's not the first move.
Now let me ask you this: can you take that pawn with another piece like a bishop, or is it only with another pawn?
This pawn.
Now let's say where our pawn is. Let's say you had a bishop there.
So just transport this one to here.
Yeah. And now and then they move the pawn up 2 places. Could the bishop do the en passant?
En passant. So the thing is like en passant is exclusively for the pawns. So the thing is, the thing is like the bishops cannot do that en passant. The queen cannot do en passant. The knights can't do en passant. The rooks can't do en passant. Only the pawns can.
Pawn to pawn, right?
Yeah, the pawn to pawn. Yep, exactly.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. Another thing I'm wondering is, okay, so after castling, is that normally when it's considered middle game or not?
So I like to just clarify that my definition, there's a lot of definitions out there when the middle game starts, but I like to say that when you have the connection of the rooks, so at the initial part of the game, there's a lot of junk between the rooks. So you have to move everything out of the way, and then the middle game starts, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, for example, I'll just do a game like this. I developed a nice board for bishops, generally. A good idea. Knight c3, knight f6, bishop c4, bishop c5, you castle. You think that is middle game? Not yet. The castle, you want to do e3, they go d6, you go bishop e3, they go bishop e6, and now, not this move, but this one is now the middle game for you.
Okay, so after a castle and when the rooks are able to see each other?
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. That point is you're ready to attack the enemy king. Just your middle game started.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Now I have another question about when the pawn becomes a queen.
Yep.
So, what are the rules on that?
Yeah, definitely. So at most you can have 9 queens. The initial one you have, and promote all the pawns to queens. So there's 8 pawns on the board, so you can promote all the pawns to queens, potentially the maximum amount.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very rare, but I've seen in a game in real life that is a guy that has 2 queens. So usually when you see 2 queens, that queen that is just remote just be swapped up for something. Or you just sacrifice your first queen to get another queen.
Okay, now is there some reason you might? I guess you can make the pawn to be any player?
Or any sort of piece except for another king.
Okay, and why would you do that other than a queen?
So basically, there's some situations. So you want to have knights because knights can do something that the queen can never do. So just jumping over pieces. And then sometimes, especially with near the end game, you want to make sure you don't stalemate the other king. So you want to make sure that you have the rook instead of the queen to make sure that you don't stalemate the king.
Oh, I see.
It's just the limited value of the rook will be just enough to checkmate the king, but you don't want a queen because it'll be just having too much range to stalemate.
Okay. Stalemate is what when
the king cannot move and it's their turn, and they don't have any other pieces to move.
Okay, and how often do rated games end up in a stalemate?
This is very common. So I'll just show you an example of classical king and pawn in a game. So there's king here on there's a king on e1. There's a pawn on e2, and the black has a king on e8. So if you don't know how to win this endgame, it'll be a draw. So black wants a draw. So let's say white goes the pawn up, black king goes there, and the white king goes there, and it's already drawish because you have to move the king in front of the pawn instead. So if they go, let's say go there, they go there, there, it's fine. E5, they go back, they go forward, there, do that one. All right. So basically, there's the point at which that black will be able to stalemate by white's having to force the move, right? So basically the sequence is if they go there, 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 and you check him, there's stalemate if you do the king there. Black cannot move, and they're not in check, and the game is over in the draw.
Oh, okay.
So the king cannot move, but not check, so it's not checkmate, so you draw the game.
Okay, so it's a good, even though he has a king, rather than
Loss, yeah.
or rather than lose, he can just get a draw. That's cool.
Yeah, stalemate, yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I have a couple rules. I haven't played in tournaments, so I'm not familiar with the rules. So,
Yeah.
what are the rules like for playing that a new player should be aware of as far as, I guess there's some rules about phones and stuff. And
Oh yeah, definitely. So a lot of people at tournaments, especially the New York State Championship that we've been attending, so the tournament director advises every round to make sure that nobody, even the spectators that they're not playing, to turn off their cell phones. They don't accept for vibrate. To just turn them off totally because they're distracting the playing hall. So they'll be running full of people's thoughts. So the spectator will be, if you do too much times, they'll be asked to not enter the playing hall at all. But if the player that's playing the game just has a one ring, they'll be, if the TD is called, like they're going to be have like a penalized maybe some tournaments will say, oh, you lose some time in your clock, or some other tournaments like your opponent's time is added. And other times if you have your phone ring a couple times, like more than the 2 times, you're going to be for the game. You lose. So you can't do that.
I see.
So it's very strict to make sure that their cell phones are off.
Yeah. What about leaving the game for going to the bathroom or something? What's the rules?
Yeah, so that rule is basically, do you want to talk to the tournament director? If you want to do, like, for example, you can go to the bathroom anytime you want. If you really have to go, you just go briefly away from the board and you come back. But you have to, if you want to leave the board in the room playing hall for a long period of time, you have to ask the tournament director for permission.
I see.
So if he says it's okay, you can have permission to go and make sure that you don't be suspicious of cheating, for example.
Okay. All right. Also, I know you've been in USCF tournaments and FIDE tournaments, and what are the kind of the different rules of the two different type of tournaments? Are there different rules as far as length of game or, whatever?
Yeah, definitely. So with the FIDE rating tournaments, we have to have longer games, time control games, and more games. So, for example, the main FIDE rated tournament I had ever played is the FIDE round robin in the chess center years ago. So it had to be a minimum of 9 rounds in the tournament. So, and also the tournament time controls had to be longer for each game. So usually, USCF tournaments have a little shorter bit of time controls, but the FIDE rated tournaments had to be longer. So there's something called a time control. So it's not this 90 minutes for the whole game. That's it. So in FIDE rated games, you want to play like 40 moves in 90 minutes, and you have an additional like 30 minutes on top of that if you go to move 40. So you get additional time after you get 40 moves in.
Okay, so USCF doesn't have rules like that, or no?
No, they have one time control, but FIDE has multiple time controls.
Oh, I see.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, and as far as normally, like, if you play the Open at a FIDE tournament or even a USCF, can anybody play, or do you normally have to have a certain rating in order to play, or how's that work?
So for the open sections, like the open sections for the USCF tournaments, like for example the World Open, if you, for example, an unrated guy that doesn't have a rating plays in the open section, the top highest rated tournament section,
Yeah.
you're gonna be paired up about with the bottom, like there's the top half and the bottom half. You're at the bottom of the bottom, and there's the bottom, the top half will play you.
Okay.
I'll be paired about with a guy that's better than me.
Okay. All right. So that wouldn't restrict me, but I'm definitely gonna
Yeah,
have
definitely.
a
So,
challenge, right?
yeah, there's some sort of tournaments in Europe that there's a minimum rating requirement to do enter in this section.
I see.
So people like you cannot enter into the premium high rated section. So only the top of the top can do that.
Okay, so generally GMs would always play the open section, right?
Yeah, definitely because they can't do like another section prizes because they're gonna just win the tournament easily, just gain prizes.
Okay, now in a tournament, what's the rules as far as writing down your moves and so forth, and what are the rules there?
Yeah, so if I just go back to this, the basically the initial position. So you want to say if you move a pawn, in the olden days you want to have pawn to king 4, but nowadays we just do e4, no prefix. But if you move knight, you have nf3. You have the n prefix. So this one, nf3. So there's a bishop, so the bishops is a b c4.
Okay.
And also the queen is a q, the king is a k, the rook is an r.
Okay, now when do you have to? You always have to write down your moves, or?
Yep, for every move you want to just keep score for every move for both sides.
Okay, now what if you're short on time?
Well, yeah, so if you have 5 minutes, your clock, you're allowed to not write any moves down for the rest of
But
the
your
game.
opponent is required to still.
Yes, because if
If he's over 5 minutes.
if they have for 5 minutes, they have to record the moves, especially in time pressure situations, and you have no time, but they do. They want to make sure that they keep a record of what happens.
Okay, now what's the rules as far as there's a 5 second rule? If you move within 5 seconds or something, doesn't take any time off your clock, or what? How's that work? Isn't there some rule like that?
Well, it's not a 5 second rule, but there's a 50 move rule. So it's basically if there's no pawns move been made, and for example, this is very hyper exaggerated. So if you move the king there and king there, king back forever, like 50 moves, and then the game will be declared a 50 move draw. The king's going back and forth forever, and there's no progress.
What do you mean? Is that repetition, or what do you?
So basically, let's say that's not the repetition. Let's say we alternate the moves a little bit, but there's no piece captures, no pawn moves.
Oh, okay.
But there's 50 moves being played. There's no progress to be made. There'll be claimed to be a 50 move rule.
Okay. Okay.
So it's basically if you move the king and exclusively the king back and forth like that, there's a threefold repetition. So this is a draw that somebody can claim either side.
Okay, but I thought there was also a rule when you were down to less than 5 seconds. If you move within 5 seconds, you still had time left or something. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I thought there was something where you.
Yeah. So there's in the UCS tournaments we have a 5 second delay. So basically you have a there's a counter 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the main time starts. What increment tournaments, you make a move and you have time be added to your clock. So once your turn starts, your clock starts running right away.
Okay, but there's a time when if you move real quickly, it doesn't count against you, or not.
So the scenario, I'm not sure about the scenario you're talking about.
Well, I thought there was some time if you move real quickly, you wouldn't have time taken off your clock. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
If you want to play really, really fast, yeah, you can just snap up a move really quickly. Yeah, you just don't have any time. But it's really generally really good policy to make sure that you wait for your opponent to hit the clock before you make the next move.
I see. Okay, now what's the rules on touch moves and moving? What hand you move with? How's that work?
Definitely. So if I were to this position, touch this queen, maybe it's a better move. It's like if I touch knight on b1, and my opponent's calls touch move, and I don't have to move this square, I can do this one. So, but sometimes if I move this is also a touch move thing. It's like if I touch the pawn on e5, and the opponent can claim touch move. It's like what? Oh yeah, basically you can have to take this pawn with the knight. So you don't take your opponent's pieces well, the intention to capture them. So some people like to take the piece before move the knight. Some people like to move the knight and take the piece, but some people like to take the pawn off and then move the piece and the square. So if you take the pawn off, it's like, oh, you have to move the knight to take the pawn.
I see.
So generally, to be safe, you want to move the piece to take the pawn. But if you just touch the pawn, let's say if you go there and you don't want to go to e5, don't touch the pawn. If you move just clink the pawn, you have to take it. But if you go g5 or h4, you don't have to take the pawn.
Okay, so whether you touch your piece or somebody else's piece, they have to.
So imagine you have this knight and you hover over to f5. Don't touch the pawn in e5. You go back or just go back to f3 or just move it to somewhere else. But if you touch that pawn, you have to commit to take that.
I see.
So it makes sense?
Or if you touch your own piece, you have to move it.
Yeah, you have to move the knight, but if you touch the pawn, you have to capture that.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Now, I guess with endgames, can you show me some endgames where it's definitely a draw?
Yes, for example, there's something that's called it's basically no progress to be made. I'll just set positions like this. There's a wall of pawns right here and wall of pawn right there. So no matter how many moves the kings do, they can't move anywhere to make progress. There's a wall of pawns, everything is blocked up, the pawns can't move, and there's not any progress to draw. No matter if you have infinite moves, they're gonna win.
Okay, now what if, let's say you have I'm thinking of a case where you have just a couple pieces on the board, but you know that there's no way either player can win.
Yeah, this is a very good case. It's like if you have actually two knights and the king versus the king, there's no way to force a win for white. So oddly enough, you have more pieces, two knights and the king, but you can't force a win unless if the king helps you to win the game. There's no way to force that. There's a draw.
Okay, so in other words, unless he makes a mistake,
there's basically the only way to make a mistake is to help you mate him.
Yeah, right.
So it's basically impossible to just checkmate this king. So there's something called a book draw. So if you have, for example, a position that is like a bishop there and a pawn there, this way. So this is a book draw as well. So you have a pawn and bishop, but this is called a bishop on the wrong color. So the color square is the h square. The opposite color is this bishop. So black can only has to do this one, just pivot over to this one forever. There's no way to make progress, and white has to draw. For example, if you go there, you can go to f8, h4, g7, there, just go there and there forever.
I see.
So I'm just gonna show you an example. There's no way to make progress just going there forever.
Because the bishop's
blocking the square.
Different color, yeah.
And there's no way to, if the bishop is the same color as the queen square, there's a win.
What if the king was on the other side of the board, on the white side? Then you could probably checkmate him or something.
Well, yeah, because if the king is on there, the pawn will be promoting.
I see. Okay.
So that'll be the way to win the game.
Okay. And the repetition rules again, it wasn't clear to me when what you said about repetition.
Yep, threefold repetition. So basically you have the moves going back and forth at the same time for 3 instances in a row.
For both players?
Yeah, basically, yep. So basically I'll just show you an example. If you go there, this is one occurrence. This is the second occurrence. This one, yeah, basically it's voluntary if they go there. If they go there, it's just a completely different position. So if they go there, back to f6, this is second occurrence. Mm-hmm. So if they go back to g1, and if they go back to g8, and they go F3, this is the third appearance, and the other player can claim a draw by a threefold repetition.
And they don't have a choice. Do they have to do it, or
No, they can claim it. Just show the tournament director and saying, "Oh, I wrote this move 3 times."
But if they don't want to, they don't have to.
Yeah, you can just play on, but there'll be no point of that.
Okay. Yeah, and I've heard the term gambit, but what does that mean?
Yeah, it's basically a gambit is like giving up material to gain some time. For example, this one is a Danish gambit. You're going to be sacrificing 2 whole pawns, to make sure that you have extra speed and extra time attack the opponent. So the bishops are already developed, but you give up 2 pawns.
So who would you think has the advantage here?
So if black knows what you're doing, black is better, but a lot of times black just makes one mistake and you lose really quickly. So a lot of players gets demolished by the white side because they don't know what to do. They want to be very precise not to lose.
So against an experienced player it might be a good thing to do, but
yeah, exactly.
Against an experienced player maybe not, huh?
Yeah. So for example, Igor used to love to play gambits against pretty much everybody in the chess center because they don't know what to do against them.
Mm-hmm.
But with a player that does know how to play against it, he just wants to do something solid.
I see. Okay. All right. Let's see. What happens if there's an illegal move on the board? What's the consequences here?
All right. So if you go to the illegal move, is if you or your opponent, let's say you play an illegal move, like I did that in a tournament before. I unconsciously make a legal move by moving my knight from, like, for example, this one. I moved this knight. I slammed it onto e5. It's not possible to do this move. So I slammed it with confidence, but my opponent was so shocked about the slam, and he didn't call for it. And I was a higher rated player, so I did that. My FIDE master friend, he saw it, and he was laughing crazily because he saw this. And I just asked him at the game, like, why did he laugh? Because I played a legal move so confidently.
And you didn't even know it at the time.
Yeah,
right?
and he said that was the best move on the board, but it's not possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if the player catches it, what happens?
Yeah, you can claim it as a legal move, and they can get penalized by my time being reduced or their time being added.
In a tournament, right?
Yeah, that's a rated tournament, but I didn't mean to do the cheating way. It's just unconsciously just do the move. So it's a great move, but it's not allowed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I know there's USCF tournaments, there's FIDE tournaments.
Yep.
What are the different ratings people can have?
Yeah. So the thing is, like, FIDE rating tournaments and the USCF rating tournaments, there's based on their actual FIDE ratings or the national ratings. So depends on what you play more. So a lot of people that you play the USCF, they play a lot more USCF tournaments, not FIDE tournaments. So their FIDE rating is generally lower than the USCF ratings. So because they don't have a lot of games in their belt for that one. But the FIDE rated tournaments, you can just play people like any old rating. But there's different ranges about the players, for example.
Hey, now if you're playing in a FIDE tournament, does that affect your USCF rating also?
There's tournaments that have a tournament that affects both ratings. For example, the World Open, New York State Championship, they have effectively for both sections. So, but there's a catch. The New York State Championship, only the Open affects both ratings, but no other, like, underprize section, for example.
Oh,
They
okay.
only affect the national rating.
So if you're not in the Open, you're not really in the FIDE tournament?
No, they don't affect the FIDE at all. You don't gain FIDE rating points. They don't compete for that. Only the Open section.
So if you want to get a FIDE rating, you got to play the Open then, right?
Yeah, for that tournament. But in other places, other countries, they can just have it be general for this the tournament.
Now, if I start playing a tournament, I've never been rated. What do they do for my rating?
Yeah, so for example, on the USCF, you have to do what's called a provisional games to determine how good are you. So for me, I had to do 25 games to make sure that I be measured by my actual rating. So I had to play 25 rated games to make sure that um, my rating bobs up and down. But my provisional rating is not real, and it can be I can increase and decrease really dramatically depending on what I do and who I play.
Okay, so and what do they start you out as? You know, like 100 or something, or what are
No, it's based on who you play the first game.
they? Oh,
That's the baseline. So, for example, if you play Don Sullivan, who's the 800 rated player, and you beat him, your starting first provisional rating is going to be my rating, 2200. But if you lose against him, you'll be 1400 the first game. The provisional is like a 1400 question mark.
I see.
So you have to play 24 more games.
I see. Okay, let's see. So, like, what are for USCF? What are the various rankings, and what are the score you have to get that rating, to get that condition, like expert? What do you need for expert, and that type of thing?
Yes, exactly. So if you are if you want to be an expert, you have to do a rating of 2,000. But anything below that, there's classes. There's class A, B, C, D, E. But basically, people below expert are class A. 1,900, 1,800 people are class A. Below that is class B, and so on. But if you want to go above that, you can do 2,200. That is me, National Master rating. So 2,200 is National Master for life. You can go down below that rating, and you can still have the title. So for me, I can be 2,000 rated UCF, but I still have National Master title because I've been doing that once.
Okay, so there's like what do you call it? Your bottom, or what do they call it when you?
Yeah, it's a floor. So the UCF floor,
yeah.
The UCF rated floor is you can't go below 200 points below your bracket. So every 100 points, let's say if you go to like 1,200, if you get that rating, you can't go below 1,000. 1,000 is the minimum.
What about FIDE? Do they have that type of thing or no?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. Maybe I imagine they do. But I'll just say that beyond National Master, you have to do what's called a FIDE rated titles. Like, for example, FIDE Masters, you have to have a 2,300 rated FIDE rating. So 2,300 USCF doesn't count for the title. You have to do 2,300 FIDE rating to have the title, FIDE Master.
Okay, now for USCF, is there a rating above Master, like Grandmaster, or no?
There's a thing called Senior Master, but people like Lev have that, but it's not really recognized. But it's basically 2,400 USCF, but basically it's like it's equivalent to FIDE Master, but nobody likes in tournaments, people don't just call you a Senior Master. So Senior Master is like the top most title in the USCF national rankings, but it's nobody just has it. The title is mentioned recognized in the tournament setting. So basically, the step up is FIDE Master.
Okay, what about IM? What's that?
Yeah, IM is basically you have to have a rating 24, and you have to have what's called the IM norms, International Master Norms. To get an International Master Norm, you have to compete in a International Norm eligible tournament. So those tournaments have people that are International Master within them, and all the people that are striving to have the norms, and you have to perform the performance rating of the tournament to be IM strength 3 times, not just one tournament, but 3 times 3 tournaments. So one time for one tournament is one norm, another time for another tournament is a second norm, and you have to do that the third time to get the title. But the third time, like basically 3 norms and the title rating is required for that norm. And the same thing for Grandmasters, 2,500 rated, and you have 3 GM norms. The same way, different title, but more difficult for sure.
Cool. Thanks a lot. I guess that's covered most of the things I want. Now I believe if I were to go into a tournament, I'd know what I need to do in order to follow the rules, I guess. You have anything else you think that I need to know?
Yes, basically for the gameplay, I want to make sure that I want to make one thing clear. Once you make a move, and whatever your opponent does, let's say if you go d5, ask yourself what is the idea of what their last move did. So you want to think about if you just want to play just developing a move like this as a blunder because your opponent will be gone because you didn't recognize their plans. So you want to make sure that every move your opponent does, you want to ask yourself, why did he do that move? You want to take the pawn. So you want to counteract that with taking the pawn yourself or defending that with a knight or a pawn. So you want to react to that reaction of the move to make sure that you don't move on your own terms but don't basically ignore everything your opponent does, which would be deadly at times. So link checkmate, for example.
And also, I guess one of the goals is to protect your pieces as much as possible, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a thing called loose pieces drop off. So if you have a piece that is not defended by anything, it'll be crucial to not make your pieces vulnerable like this. D4, let's say if they go G6, G6, and they go, for example, if you want to go this one, it's looking pretty, but black can win the knight by a fork, attacking the king and the knight. So the knight is advanced and pretty, but it's going to be lost. So you want to make sure that every single piece, what I specify as a piece, is basically everything other than the pawn. So the pawns are expendable, like gambit worthy. They can be taken away to just gain some time, more space, more initiative. But the pieces like the knight, it should not be lost. It'll be a little really brutal mishap, and you lose the game really easily.
Okay, now if I get ahead as far as pieces,
Yep.
then generally swaps are good.
Yep. If you're up material, you want to trade pieces as much as possible. And if you're down material, you want to actually trade pawns. So less pawns your opponent has, the harder it will be to technically win the game of only pieces, so they can't make another queen with the pawn.
So if you're down material, swapping pawns is okay.
Yep. If you're down material, you want to take every pawn you can. So there's a lot of cases that, for example, this an example like this. If your opponent has, they have to really work for that. If they have a knight and a rook, let's just do the other piece colors. So if they for example, if they go rook there, and if they have a black, a knight and rook, so you accomplish everything. All the pawns are dropped off. Black has an extra knight. It's really hard to win this game with just a knight extra. So technically, black should win, but if they trade off rooks, then the king and knight cannot win. So white only has to trade off the rooks. So
Nice.
So from this point on, white wants to trade off the rooks and just say, oh, a draw. So white wants to attack the king and also avoid the rook trades.
I see.
So it'll be very, very hard to win this game, even though they're ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Okay, so basically, if the white can capture the rook, even though they lose their own, then basically it's a draw. That's what you're saying.
Just trade off the rook for another rook.
Yeah, in other words, then it's a draw.
Yep. So it doesn't matter if the king and knight is on the board. Is not enough to checkmate the king.
I see.
So yeah. So the concept is the pawns are really worth to keep to win, and make sure that you don't lose.
Yeah, because then you can move it up maybe to become a queen or something. Is that what
Exactly.
you're
Yep. Mm-hmm. So with that potential, the game will be easily drawn for the side that doesn't have a lot of material.
Okay, that was very helpful.
All right. All right. So one thing I want to do is I want to have you play a little bit of a game against a robot, and I'll see if you can use the concept that we learned right now. So you're going to be playing a robot named Jimmy, and you're playing white. So what do you want to do? Is white.
I'll take E4 pawn. Yeah.
Yep. E4. Yep. And they're gonna play E5. Right now, what to do?
Well, I'll protect the four squares in the middle, so I'll move the knight up to F3.
Yep. Very good. Very common. They go Queen E7 was not really generally the right move order, but what to do now?
I want to get my bishop out, so I'll move my bishop to C4.
Yep, C4. We go A6. So what do you think that the purpose of that move is?
Maybe to get the other pawn up so they can knock out my bishop.
Yeah, maybe this move. Yeah, with the pawn's help. Exactly. Yeah. So, maybe you don't have to worry about that. But what do you want to do?
Well, I know I should protect my I should probably protect my bishop. So why don't I do that? And I'll protect the pawn. I'll take D3 for my D3.
All right, that's a very good move to make sure that the bishop can come out. All right, it go B6 instead. So not. So one thing is like you want to have a plan and stick with the plan, but this A6 B6 is not not together. So B5 is a legitimate plan, but B6 basically makes this A6 move like a waste of time. So you want to have a plan. Better it's better to have a bad plan than no plan, but use a move like this just gives your opponent more time.
Okay, I'll castle.
Yep, castling is a good move. So Jimmy plays D6. All right.
Moving all his pawns. Okay, let me move my my rook to E1.
Yep, rook E1. A6. So it's an offside move, but doesn't make so much. So if you see this, he moves a queen early and moves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawns.
Not developing his more powerful pieces.
Exactly, and you're while he does that, you castle. You have rook E1, knight F3, bishop G4, and you have way ahead of development. So I think that white is really, really much better. What to do now?
Let's see. I can move up my other bishop and threaten his queen, but then they'll just block it with a pawn. So I don't know if I want to do that. Let's see. How about if I can't move my knight up? I'll get my other knight out. I'll move it to C3.
Yep, knight C3. Good development move. I'll go C5. So again, another pawn move.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'll move my knight. My knight to. I'm thinking of D5, but I want to double check that first.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, knight to D5.
Yeah, so this is called an outpost. So what an outpost means that there's no pawns to ever attack the knight. So you see the pawns are to advance and it allows this knight to go there. There's no, for the rest of the game, there's not going to be a pawn to just kick out the knight.
Yeah.
So knight D5 is a great move, attacking the queen and also occupying the square. So now it goes queen D7.
Okay, now I'll take the pawn. I'll take the if I take the pawn, then I can get the rook or the queen. So I'm going to move my knight to take to B6.
Yes, definitely. So this is called a fork or a double attack. So if you're going to basically attack both pieces at once and just say what you want to lose, and you're going to lose one. So knight b6 is a great move to attack both pieces, and they're going to lose one. So he goes way away to g4.
Or I could even take the bishop.
Yeah, so you want to make sure.
Now hold on, I gotta see
Yep.
where his queen is.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you don't make a mistake. So you have a chance to win something, but you want to make sure you think.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. What can I do with this queen? Probably not much. Oh, the other thing, yeah, I can't really take the bishop because it'd be taken by the queen.
Yeah, so a lot of people forget to do backwards moves. So don't take the bishop.
Yeah, right. No, let me think. What? I think it's. I don't see anything that's not protected, so I'll take the rook.
Yep, rook knight takes the rook is a really good move. Here I had the material, and he goes a pawn move again.
Okay, now I'm up material, so.
Yep. So you want to trade pieces if you can, and just otherwise make sure you develop.
I'll attack the queen with my. Of course, she's unprotected. I could move my knight to attack the king, but I don't know what to do after that. Let's see. I could move. Let's see. If I attack the king, he's going to come after me. And then, okay, I could. How about if, yeah. Well, why don't I? Let's see. I attack the king. Let me see if I can get that queen somehow. I could attack the queen, and then she'll move back. Which isn't.
So the other thing is like I like to teach my students is like you want to look for forcing moves. So the most forcing moves is check. So,
Yeah, I was thinking of moving my knight, but then he'll just come after me. So
definitely. So I want to just let you know about the priorities of moves to look at. So first of all, checks, and next, if you don't see any good checks, you want to see captures if you can. So if you just have a good chapter, think about it. And also, if you don't see a good capture, you want to make a threat that you can maybe just attack something further.
yeah, I could attack the queen, but she'll just move back. I don't know if that's,
Exactly. So maybe look.
I'll attack the king.
Yeah.
My knight.
So
I got a good places to go if the knight. If the king goes towards me, I got still good places to go.
yeah. So which move is that?
The knight to C7.
Yep, nicely 7 check. And also, when you check, the king cannot castle anymore. So.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
So the king with the king castle is the king gets in check, and the king moves. They can't castle anymore.
Right. You're right.
Yeah,
Right.
so
Yeah, that's
if
so
they-
stop castling.
Yeah. So if they can block, but the cool thing about knights, the knights checks cannot be blocked ever. So there's no way to block the knight check.
Uh-huh.
So they have to move the king. They go to d7. Now what to do?
Let's see. I gotta move my knight, or see however the best place to move it though.
Yep.
I could move it. I can move it in a safe place. I'm trying to think. How about if I move my other knight up where it's protected by my bishop?
So which one?
Move the bottom knight to D. D5.
This one?
It's not the best move, but you can't take my knight that way.
It's a perfect move, but it's illegal.
Oh.
It's like me. It's like me. Smack! I can't do that.
Oh, okay, all right.
It'll be a good move is loud. That's my exact reaction. Smack!
That's what you did.
Exactly. That's basically one of my first steps.
All right. Now I could move it up to the rank 8, but why would I do that?
Yeah, you want to make sure the knight is safe.
Yeah, I'll put him down near the protected by the bishop. So down to D5.
Yep, D5. But this thing called a tactic that you can actually win the queen. But I'm gonna play your move. But this is a tactic that you can win the queen. It was knight E5. The checking the king and the attacking the queen. So if they take the pawn with the knight with the pawn, then you're gonna take the queen with the queen, right? So if you do that one,
Well, just wait.
Yep.
If I move it up there, then I lose my knight.
yeah, they're gonna pawn takes there. But the point is to take their queen.
Oh, I didn't see that. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tactic, but you don't want to worry about that. This is a move that I saw, but you want to do knight d5 is okay. So if you're ahead of pieces material, you don't want to worry about tactics like that. But you still have opportunities like that if you want to. With bishop b7, so he doesn't see the threat. So what do you want to do now? So when you're down, if you're out of material, you want tree pieces, and you want to not worry about tactics, exact tactics. But yeah, just want to play whatever is comfortable for you.
Okay. Too bad they're nice there. I could make a fork between the queen, queen and the
almost yes, almost that. Yeah.
Knight's in the way.
Yep.
I could put him in check again.
Uh-huh.
And again, I could do what you said, but that's kind of like
cheating. So
cheating.
let's say that I didn't tell you that.
Yeah. Okay.
What other move? So you're ahead anyway. So what other move you see?
If I see.
So if
in
you don't
advance, if I can.
So I think that I told you this before, but if you don't know what to do, just improve your pieces.
Yeah. Okay. All right. How about if I? How about if I? See, I want to get my. If I get my bishop out.
Yep.
I'll go all the way, but that wouldn't. And I could protect it with my knight, but then that I lose it with it. I'm ahead of. I don't want to do that. Let's see.
Yep.
Move. I could move my. I could move my. I don't want to. I want to keep my rook kind of available, so I don't necessarily want to. I should probably get it in play though. So why don't I move it up near the near E3, I guess.
Yeah, bishop e3, a very good move.
Don't know why it's very good, but
well, it's developing. So he moves the king again. So he's not worried about developing at all. So you have a free move. It basically says pass, move again.
Okay. All right. So. All right. Let me think about that. I could put them in. I can't put them in. I got to get rid of some of these pawns. They're pawns.
Yep. So you want to trade pieces and.
Yes.
Well, so one thing that I know that with a king like exposed like this, one thing is like a strategy is to trade off the pawns that are near the king. Like this one, they have to go. So if they do that, you're going to make the king vulnerable.
Yeah, I want to get rid of the pawns. I was trying to think of how to do that. That's probably the way. I think I moved my pawn up to D4.
Yeah, pawn D4, very good move. So want to expose that king. So he ignores that and just says, "Oh, bishop C, I pass." Now what to do?
Okay.
I'll
take the pawn near the king, I guess.
This one?
Yeah.
All right, very good. Okay, it goes check, so there's no other move to take the queen, the king.
Right.
So he sacrifices for some reason, so we goes bishop g7.
Okay. I'll I'll put him in. I'll put him in check with my knight
All right, where square?
to b4.
Knight b4. All right, very good. Let's check. He has to move. No blocking the knight check, so he goes back to d7.
Okay, now move my bishop. Let's see, not my bishop, but
There's things like think about checks, captures, threats.
okay. I'll
So do you have a check or a capture that's helpful? Or maybe
I'll capture his pawn with my pawn.
pawn your pawn? This
Yeah,
way?
yeah.
So yeah, I'll play that move, but there's a better move. Maybe the queen will take there. Get the queen involved.
Yeah.
But I'll take with the pawn. But you want to think about checks first. But they go back to d7 saying pass again, so what to do now?
Hmm.
So you see that he moved
I'll
two
take-
pawns, moved the king too much.
Yeah. I'll take. See. I think I'll move my. Get rid of some of these pawns that get in my way. So I'll move my. Let's see. I'll move my. Bishop. Let's see. I'll move my my knight to take his. I can't do that because then I'm going to lose it.
Yeah. Just want to be bishop takes the knight. So maybe you want
I could move my queen up, but
yeah, introduce more pieces to attack him, maybe. So if you think about it, only the pawn, bishop, and knight are attacking the king, but maybe one more piece will help the attack to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
So what piece can you introduce to just try to win the game?
Well, I can move the queen up below my pawn.
Yep. Some move like this.
Yeah.
That's a great move because you're trying to do this one. So yeah, do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Queen d5 is a really good move. Let's see if he sees it. So yep, he does that. He wants to attack your queen. What do you do now?
I would. I might want to attack his go and. I might want to go on a8 to protect two pieces, but let me think about that.
Yep.
If I move my pawn up, he can't. I could put him in check. He could take it with his. That wouldn't work. I don't have my bishop protected either. That's not good.
Yep.
Well, it was a good move on his part, wasn't it? Don't have my bishop protect. I could protect my bishop by moving down one or moving over one, I guess. And since I'm up pieces, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah. So
Okay, so what did I do?
The mindset is if you to attack something of his, and if you trade a bishop for something else of equal value, you're just trading something, and it's good for you.
Yeah, and because I'm ahead, I'll move my queen to c5.
Queen c5, okay. Queen c5. And also another move is queen a8.
Well, then I lose my bishop.
Yeah, the thing is that the mindset is if you take.
Well, then I take the knight.
Yeah, exactly. So imagine this like a thing in your head. Bishop queen c8, queen a8 rather. Bishop takes c4. Queen takes b8. Check. the king has to go to d7. There's no way to go there because of pawn. And if they go there, there's queen c7 check. Taking the king again, they have to go there or there, but you can take the bishop there.
Yeah.
So I'll
Anyway.
just do the queen c5 move,
Yeah,
but
right.
there's a way to trade out pieces and also win the bishop back. Okay, this one just moves away the bishop again.
Okay. I'll go ahead and I'll either check him, or I could move up. Move up my knight. I'll check him
Which way?
with my. I can see if I can check him with the. I'll check him with the queen. So C8.
Okay, this one for sure.
Oh no, because the bishop's in the way.
Backwards moves.
Okay.
Yeah, we said this before. The backwards moves are, a lot of people forget those, but the bishops can move backwards.
Mm-hmm.
So thankfully you saw that in the nick of time. So one thing that a lot of people.
I think what I'll do is
Yeah.
I might take the pawn.
So take the pawn this way. With the.
Yeah, I'm thinking with the queen to put. Of course, you had to put it in check, I guess. But then I could move the king up. The queen. I mean, I could move the knight up. Why don't I move the knight up? Because then I got more material. I'm moving up. Why don't I move the knight? Move the knight to. Oh no, because that would be. Oh, I'd lose that too. Yeah, I'd lose it too to the other bishop. Those bishops are messing me up.
Yeah. Well, I think.
Okay, I could move the queen up to the next rank. Put him in check. Or I could move it over too. Yeah, no, I'll move it up. No, because the knight, that wouldn't be good either.
Exactly. You want to make sure that. Imagine your head. Don't move the piece, but imagine that if you go there, just scan it really quickly. Can the piece take me? Yes. And this one is like, can the piece take me? Yes. If you see backwards moves. So one thing that a lot of my students, especially Bob, says, once I move the piece, I just immediately see what was wrong with it. So,
I see, yeah,
so
right.
you make some moves like, oh, well, stupid am I? So don't make a quick move. It's like, oh, I didn't think about it. But if you think first, you just like, oh, you could save yourself from losing queen.
Mm-hmm.
So just take a
Okay, how
second to scan.
about an A7 for my queen?
Yep, queen a7 is a good move. Attacking the knight, and also attacking this pawn. Okay, it's just check the king.
Okay, well I'll take it.
Yep, very good. This is a free bishop, no trick. So it goes knight d7 to protect the knight. This is a very bad move by him.
Let's see here. I'm thinking,
Think about checks.
yeah, about check, but I'm thinking about. Then he'll go. He only has one place to go. The knight. I guess he can move the knight in the way. But he can't. It's checkmate. No, it isn't, because he can move the knight. Yeah, let me go to queen to A8, and it'll be check, and then he can't move the queen to A8. Yeah.
Yeah, so they have to block with the knights. Yeah, you were correctly pointing out that they can't move the king because the pawn is blocking there.
Right.
So they have to move the knight to b8.
And then I'll take the knight. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So b8, knight b8 is going to be played. And now what to do?
No, I take the knight.
Yep. So they have to go with the king to d7. That's the only move. Now what to do?
I'll move. Let's see. I can move my rook, I guess. Let's see.
Well, you want to think about checks first.
Yeah, checks first. Yeah, okay. If I, there's only one way to check. Well, I could check. I can't really check them with my knight because then you'll take it. I could. Well, if I move the queen down, he'll just go back up. But then I can move my queen in. I can get rid of that pawn that was bothering me. Let's see. Yeah, why don't I move my queen down? I want to get rid of that extra pawn if I have to. Okay, move the queen down. Check.
This one or this one?
Yeah, there.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, take the pawn. It's been bugging me.
Okay, with
Well,
the queen or the.
well. Okay, yeah. I could take it with the bishop. Huh? No, let me take it. Take it with. I could have taken it with the bishop long ago, I guess. Let me take it with the bishop.
All right.
Well, no, I was thinking of the pawn.
That's
So
fine.
just
So
moved.
you put the pawn up.
I was thinking of taking that pawn with the.
Yeah, that's fine. But you have a very big threat. You can see it.
Yeah, I know.
So which move is a big serious start you can play? Think about checks.
I know. I'll check with my bishop. I could do that. Yeah.
Which bishop?
The bishop, the queen on the green square.
Yeah. To where?
To below the queen.
B6. Yes, that's checkmate.
It is?
Yeah, checkmate. So this king cannot move anywhere because this bishop is blocking that square. The queen is guarding this square and this one. And also, there's also checkmate this way. This one.
Okay.
Also, there's checkmate with the queen moving over one square. There's a lot of checkmates. So we found 1 of 3 checkmates. Maybe there's another one, but this basically a setup that we found.